Officer Derek Harlan walked into the park looking for trouble and thought he had found it, in the form of a black man sitting peacefully on a bench. To Harlan, this was just another chance to flex his authority on someone he deemed an outsider. What he failed to notice was the trident pin tucked away, or the fact that he was harassing one of the most elite and decorated Navy SEAL commanders in the U.S. military. You are about to witness a masterclass in discipline as a racist power trip turns into a career-ending disaster, proving that some targets are actually the most dangerous men in the room. The sun hung low over the manicured lawns of an affluent suburb in Northern Virginia that smelled of old money and fresh landscaping. It was the kind of place where the grass was cut diagonally, the hedges were trimmed with laser precision, and the neighbors watched everything through sheer curtains. Commander Marcus Ellison sat on a wrought iron bench near the center of the town square, a calm island in a sea of nervous wealth. At 42, Marcus was built like a granite cliff, 6'4" with shoulders that strained the fabric of his simple gray hoodie. He wore faded jeans and worn-out running shoes. To the untrained eye, he looked like a drifter, maybe a laborer waiting for a bus that was not coming. To a trained eye, however, the signs were there. The way his eyes constantly scanned the perimeter, never resting. The way his hands sat loose but ready on his knees. The stillness. It was the stillness of a predator that did not need to roar to prove it was dangerous. Marcus checked his watch, a battered G-Shock that had survived multiple deployments to Afghanistan, and one to a place he could not legally mention. He was early. He was always early. He was waiting for his daughter Lila to finish her violin recital at the conservatory across the street. He had come straight from a grueling training exercise, swapping his uniform for civilian clothes in the car to avoid drawing attention. He took a sip of his lukewarm black coffee and closed his eyes for a second, enjoying the rare silence. "Excuse me." The voice was sharp, nasal, and dripping with unearned authority. Marcus opened his eyes slowly. Blocking the sun was a police officer. His name tag read Harlan. He was average height, thick around the middle, with a buzz cut that was trying too hard to look military and failing. His hand was already resting near his holster, his thumb hooked aggressively over his belt. "Can I help you, officer?" Marcus asked. His voice was a deep baritone, calm and level. Officer Harlan did not answer immediately. He took a step closer, invading Marcus's personal space. He looked him up and down, sneering at the hoodie, the scuffed sneakers, and the dark skin. "We've had some calls," Harlan said, his eyes hidden behind mirror-tinted sunglasses, about a suspicious individual loitering in the square, making residents uncomfortable. Marcus looked around. The square was empty, save for a young woman walking a golden retriever 50 yards away. She had not even looked at him. "I'm just waiting for my daughter," Marcus said, gesturing vaguely toward the conservatory. "She's wrapping up a lesson." "Is that right?" Harlan scoffed. He clearly did not believe a word of it. "You don't look like you have a kid in the conservatory. That place is tuition only, expensive." "I'm aware of the tuition," Marcus said dryly. "Let me see some ID," Harlan demanded, snapping his fingers. "Now." Marcus did not flinch. He knew the law and he knew his rights, but he also knew the reality of the situation. He was a large black man in a white neighborhood, and this cop was itching for a reason. "Am I being detained, officer?" Marcus asked softly. Harlan's face tightened. The veins in his neck bulged. He hated it when they knew the words. "I said let me see some ID. Do you have a hearing problem or are you just stupid?" "I'm asking if I'm being detained," Marcus repeated, his voice dropping an octave, becoming colder. "If I'm not, I'd prefer to sit here and finish my coffee." Harlan laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Oh, you're a lawyer now. You think you're smart? Stand up, turn around, hands on the bench." "For what crime?" "For failing to comply with a lawful order and loitering," Harlan shouted, his hand unsnapping the retention strap on his holster. It was a mistake, a massive tactical error, but Harlan did not know that yet. He did not know he was barking orders at a man who had negotiated with warlords and hunted terrorists in caves so dark they swallowed light. Marcus sighed. He set his coffee cup down on the bench. He stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible, palms open. As he rose to his full height, he towered over Harlan. The officer took an involuntary half-step back, intimidated by the sheer physical presence of the man before him, but his ego forced him to step forward again. "Turn around," Harlan screamed, grabbing Marcus's shoulder. Marcus did not move. He looked down at the hand on his shoulder, then back at Harlan's face. "Officer," Marcus said, "I'm going to give you one chance to walk away and check your patrol logs. You really don't want to do this. Are you threatening me, boy?" Harlan spat the last word like a slur. Marcus's eyes narrowed. The air around them seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I'm not threatening you. I'm saving you." Officer Derek Harlan had been on the force for many years. In that time, he had learned that the badge was a shield that protected him from consequences. He had learned that if he yelled loud enough, people shrank. He thrived on the fear in people's eyes, but looking into Marcus Ellison's eyes, Harlan saw no fear. He saw a boredom that infuriated him. "Get on the ground," Harlan roared, unholstering his taser. The bright yellow plastic pointed squarely at Marcus's chest. "Get on the ground or I will light you up." By now, the commotion had drawn attention. The woman walking the dog had stopped. A couple sitting at an outdoor bistro across the street had turned around. Phones were coming out. The unblinking eyes of the internet were starting to record. Marcus remained standing. He calculated the distance, 7 feet. If Harlan pulled the trigger, the probes would hit. Marcus had been tased before during SEER school. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. It hurt, but he could fight through it. But he did not want to make a scene. He had a reputation to uphold, and more importantly, he did not want Lila walking out to see her father in handcuffs. "I'm a commissioned officer in the United States Navy," Marcus said, his voice projecting clearly so the bystanders could hear. "My ID is in my back right pocket. I'm slowly reaching for it." "Don't you move," Harlan yelled, shaking slightly. The adrenaline was dumping into his system, making him twitchy. "You're lying. You're a vagrant. I've seen your type before. Stolen valor. Is that it? You think you can lie to me?" "Check the ID," Marcus said firmly. Harlan hesitated. The crowd was growing. He could see a teenager live-streaming the encounter from near the fountain. He needed to assert dominance. He needed to win. "I'm not checking anything until you're in cuffs," Harlan sneered. He holstered the taser and reached for his baton. "Last warning." Marcus did not move. Harlan swung. It was a sloppy, telegraphed strike aimed at Marcus's knee, a compliance strike meant to buckle the leg against a drunk or a scared teenager. It would have worked against most, but it was moving in slow motion to the former lead instructor of close-quarters combat for SEAL Team 6. Marcus did not strike back. He simply was not there. He shifted his weight, a subtle pivot of the hips, and the baton whistled through empty air. Harlan stumbled forward, off balance. "Assault on an officer!" Harlan screamed, his face turning purple. "You are done. You are dead." He lunged at Marcus, trying to tackle him. It was like a toddler trying to tackle a redwood tree. Marcus caught Harlan by the wrist, his grip like a steel vise. He did not hurt him. He just immobilized him. He held the officer's arms away from his body, rendering him completely helpless. "Let go of me!" Harlan thrashed, kicking out wildly. "Calm down," Marcus commanded. It was the voice of a man used to giving orders that were followed instantly. "Look around you, Harlan. You are making a mistake that will cost you your pension. Stop." "I'm calling backup," Harlan gasped, breathless from his own exertion. He managed to key his shoulder radio with his chin. 1099, officer needs assistance. Town Square, large male, violently resisting arrest. Send everyone." Marcus released him and stepped back. "Hands up again. I haven't hit you. I haven't threatened you. I am waiting for my daughter." Sirens wailed in the distance. The peaceful suburb was about to turn into a war zone. "You're going to jail for a long time," Harlan panted, retrieving his handcuffs. He was humiliated. He had been manhandled without the suspect even throwing a punch. His pride was shattered, and he was going to make Marcus pay for it. "I'm going to bury you under the jail." Marcus looked past Harlan's shoulder. A black SUV with tinted windows had just pulled up to the curb, flanked by 2 police motorcycles. But these were not local PD. They were military police. Harlan did not notice. He was too busy trying to find a reason to use his baton again. "Officer," Marcus said, nodding toward the street. "Your backup is here, but I don't think they're here for you." Harlan spun around, a smug grin on his face. "About time. Now you're going to learn respect." But as Harlan watched, the door of the black SUV opened. A man stepped out. He was wearing a pristine Navy service khaki uniform with 3 stars on the collar. Vice Admiral Gideon Hayes, the commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, and he looked furious. But Harlan, blinded by his own rage and ignorance, did not recognize the rank. He just saw an old man in a suit. "Hey!" Harlan yelled at the Admiral. "Back off! This is an active crime scene. Get back in your car unless you want to be arrested too." The crowd gasped. The teenager filming the video zoomed in. Marcus just shook his head. "Oh, you really stepped in it now." Officer Derek Harlan was so deep in his tunnel vision that he failed to process the visual cues that would have saved a smarter man. He saw the black SUV. He saw the motorcycles. And he saw an older man in a uniform. But his brain, flooded with cortisol and rage, only registered interference. "I said back off!" Harlan bellowed, actually taking a step toward Vice Admiral Hayes, his baton still clenched in his hand. "You are obstructing justice. I don't care who you think you are. Get back in the car or you're going in the back of mine." The reaction was instantaneous. The 2 military police officers flanking the Admiral did not yell. They did not posture. They simply moved. In a blur of synchronized motion, they stepped in front of the Admiral, their hands dropping to the grip of their sidearms, not drawing, but signaling intent. These were master-at-arms, sailors trained to protect high-value assets. They were younger, fitter, and infinitely more disciplined than Harlan. "Sir," one of the MPs said, his voice like grinding gravel, "step away from the Admiral immediately." Harlan blinked, the word Admiral finally penetrating the fog of his anger. He looked past the MPs to the man in the khaki uniform. He saw the 3 silver stars glistening on the collar. He saw the ribbons stacked high on the chest, rows of color denoting decades of service. Harlan froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Officer," Admiral Hayes said, stepping around his protective detail. His voice was not loud, but it carried a terrifying weight. It was the voice of a man who commanded fleets. "You have exactly 3 seconds to holster that weapon and stand down before I have my men detain you for assaulting a federal officer." He... Harlan stammered, pointing a shaking finger at Marcus. "He was resisting. He refused to ID. He assaulted me." "I've been watching from the intersection for several minutes," Hayes cut him off, his eyes cold as ice. "I saw a decorated commander standing still while you swung a baton at him like a street thug. And now I see you threatening a 3-star admiral." At that moment, the local cavalry arrived. 3 patrol cars screeched into the square, lights flashing. Sirens cut the air, then died abruptly. Doors flew open. 4 officers rushed out, led by Sergeant Leonard Price, a veteran cop who knew the community well. Price took one look at the scene and felt his blood run cold. He saw Harlan red-faced and holding a baton. He saw the black government SUV. He saw the MPs. And he saw Marcus Ellison, who Price knew because Price had actually done his job and met the residents, standing calmly with his hands raised. "Vance, put it down!" Price screamed, sprinting across the grass. "Put the damn baton down now!" Harlan turned to his sergeant, looking for an ally. "Sarge, this guy." "Shut up!" Price tackled Harlan, not to arrest him, but to stop him from doing anything stupider. He shoved Harlan against the patrol car, ripping the baton from his hand. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? Look at the license plates, you idiot. Look at the uniform." Price turned to the Admiral and snapped a salute so sharp his hand vibrated. "Admiral, I am Sergeant Price. I apologize. Please let us handle this." Admiral Hayes did not return the salute immediately. He let Price sweat for a long, agonizing second. "Sergeant, you might want to take control of your man. He seems to think he's running a militia here." Hayes then turned his attention to Marcus. The Admiral's demeanor shifted instantly from cold fury to professional warmth. He walked past the stunned Harlan and the terrified Price straight to the man in the hoodie. Hayes extended his hand. "Commander Ellison," the Admiral said. "Sorry to interrupt your afternoon. We tried to call, but your phone went straight to voicemail." Marcus shook the Admiral's hand, a small wry smile finally breaking his stoic mask. "Battery died, sir. I was trying to save the last 2% to text my daughter." "Good to see you, Gideon." Harlan, pinned against the car by Price, felt the world drop out from under him. "Commander," Harlan whispered. "He's a commander." Marcus looked over the Admiral's shoulder at Harlan. "Commander Marcus Ellison, SEAL Team 6, current Acting Director of Naval Special Warfare Development Group. And you, Officer Harlan, have had a very bad day." The dynamic of the town square had shifted fundamentally. What had been a police encounter was now a federal incident. The bystanders who had been filming were now buzzing with excitement, their phones capturing the humiliating tableau of Officer Harlan being disarmed by his own sergeant. "Get him in the car," Sergeant Price hissed to the other officers. "Get him out of sight before he says another word." "No," Admiral Hayes said. The single word stopped the officers in their tracks. "I want him right there," Hayes said, pointing to the curb. "I have already contacted the Pentagon's legal counsel, and they are contacting your chief of police and the mayor. We are going to wait right here until they arrive. This officer accused a senior naval officer of assault. We need to preserve the crime scene." Harlan was hyperventilating. "Sarge, you got to help me. He didn't show ID. He looks suspicious." "Vance," Price whispered harshly, his face pale. "Shut your mouth. That is the guy who led the raid that killed the Al-Shabaab leader last year. It was on the news. That's a national hero you just tried to tase. You are done. You are cooked." Just then, the heavy oak doors of the conservatory opened. A stream of students began to pour out carrying violin cases and cellos. Among them was Lila, 12 years old, with Marcus's eyes and a bright yellow ribbon in her hair. She scanned the crowd looking for her dad. She saw the police lights, the black SUV, and the crowd. Fear flashed across her face. Marcus saw it. He immediately broke protocol. "Admiral, excuse me. My daughter." "Go," Hayes nodded. Marcus jogged over to the sidewalk, ignoring Harlan completely. He met Lila halfway. He did not look like a victim. He looked like a dad. He dropped to one knee so he was eye level with her. "Daddy, what happened?" Lila asked, clutching her violin case. "Are the police here for you?" "No, baby," Marcus lied smoothly, brushing a curl of hair from her forehead. "See that man in the uniform? That's my boss. We have a big work trip coming up, and he came to pick me up in the fancy car. The police are just helping with traffic." Lila looked at Harlan, who was slumped against the patrol car, looking defeated. "That policeman looks sad." "He made a mistake," Marcus said softly. "But it's okay. We're going to go get ice cream, okay? Uncle Gideon is going to give us a ride." Marcus stood up and walked Lila back toward the group. As he approached, another car squealed to a halt. It was a luxury sedan. The chief of police, Chief Reginald Thornton, scrambled out. He was a politician in a uniform, and he looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He had clearly just been woken out of a dead sleep. "Chief, what are you doing here?" Harlan asked, his arrogance finally beginning to crack. Chief Thornton ignored his officer and practically ran toward Marcus Ellison, extending a shaking hand. "Commander, I cannot apologize enough. There has been a terrible misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Chief," Marcus said, his voice hard. He held Lila's hand, shielding her from the tension. "It was profiling, aggression, and incompetence. Your officer didn't ask for a name. He didn't ask for an explanation. He asked for submission, and when he didn't get it, he resorted to violence." "We will investigate this fully," Thornton stammered, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You certainly will," Admiral Hayes interjected. "But here is what is going to happen right now. You are going to take Officer Harlan's badge and gun. You are going to suspend him pending an investigation. And you are going to release the body cam footage to my office immediately. If that footage gets lost or corrupted, I will have the Department of Justice down here so fast your head will spin." Harlan looked up, his eyes pleading. "Chief, he resisted. You have to back me up." Chief Thornton looked at Harlan with pure disgust. He walked over to him. "Harlan," Thornton said, loud enough for the cameras to hear. "Give me your badge and gun. Now." Harlan's hands trembled as he unclipped his holster. He fumbled with the pin on his chest. He handed the metal shield, the source of all his power, to the chief. "You are relieved of duty," Thornton said. "Go home. Do not leave the state. We will be in touch." As Harlan walked away, stripped of his authority, a lone civilian, the teenager who had been filming shouted out, "Hey, don't forget your ticket!" Laughter now rippled through the crowd. Marcus turned to the admiral. "Gideon, I appreciate the cavalry, but why are you actually here? You don't do pickups." Hayes's face turned serious. "It's about the mission in Yemen. The intel changed. We need you back at the base now." Marcus nodded. The transition was instant. The father was gone. The commander was back. But he looked down at Lila. "I can't leave her. She comes with us," Hayes said. "We'll drop her off at your sister's on the way to the airfield. But Marcus, this isn't over. That cop, he's going to try to sue. I know the type. He's going to go on TV and cry about how he was threatened." Marcus looked at the retreating figure of Harlan. "Let him try," Marcus said. "I've fought insurgents, terrorists, and pirates. I think I can handle a bully with a badge." But neither of them knew just how dirty Harlan was willing to play. As Harlan sat in his personal car watching the Admiral's SUV drive away, he was not thinking about regret. He was thinking about revenge. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Gary, it's Vance. I need a favor. I need you to pull a file on a guy named Marcus Ellison. I want to know everything. Ex-wives, debts, parking tickets. I'm going to ruin this guy." The war had not ended in the town square. It had just begun. While Commander Marcus Ellison was halfway across the world in a tactical operations center in Djibouti, overseeing a critical hostage rescue, the war at home was getting dirty. Derek Harlan was not going down without a fight. Suspended without pay and humiliated in front of his peers, he sat in his basement surrounded by empty beer cans and stacks of printed internet pages. He had found his Gary, a former cop turned private investigator who operated in the gray areas of the law. "I found something," Gary said over the phone several days later. "It's not much, but we can spin it. Ellison was involved in a bar fight in Virginia Beach many years ago. Charges were dropped, but there's a police report, and he's been seeing a therapist at the VA, PTSD, maybe anger management." "That's it?" Harlan asked, desperate. "It's enough," Gary replied. "We leak it to the right blogs. Unstable Navy SEAL snaps at local hero cop. PTS, de-riddled soldier threatens officer. You play the victim, Vance. You say you were terrified for your life because he looked glazed over and crazy." Harlan smiled for the first time in days. He contacted a local news anchor, a Nancy Grace-style aggressive commentator hoping to get national traction. He did not get Nancy, but he got a hungry local reporter named Victor Lang, who was looking for a viral scoop. The segment aired on the nightly local news. The headline read, "Hero or Menace? Local officer claims self-defense against unstable SEAL." In the interview, Harlan wore a suit that was too big for him, looking somber. "I didn't want to hurt him," Harlan lied to the camera, wiping a fake tear. "He had this look in his eyes, the 1,000-yard stare. I thought he was having a flashback. I was trying to contain him for his own safety, and he grabbed me. He almost broke my arm. I'm the victim here, but because he's got brass on his collar, I'm the one losing my pension." The segment included a grainy, edited clip of the encounter, conveniently cutting out the part where Harlan swung the baton first, showing only the moment Marcus grabbed Harlan's wrists. The fallout was immediate. At the middle school, Lila was eating lunch when a group of kids approached her table. "My dad says your dad is a psycho," one boy sneered. "He says your dad should be in a mental hospital, not the Navy." Leela, usually quiet and sweet, felt tears prick her eyes. She stood up, leaving her tray, and ran to the bathroom. She did not have a dad to protect her. He was deployed on a mission. She felt completely alone. But Harlan had made a fatal miscalculation. He had assumed Marcus Ellison was just a soldier. He forgot that Marcus Ellison was a brotherhood. When the news segment hit YouTube, The comment section did not go the way Harlan expected. "I served with Ellison in Ramadi. That man is a saint. This cop is lying. Check the unedited footage. Where is it? Harlan has multiple excessive force complaints over several years. Look it up." And then the phone rang in the office of Benjamin Crump, the renowned civil rights attorney who had represented the families of George Floyd and Trayvon Martin. He had been sent the clip by a concerned citizen. Crump watched the edited news segment. Then he made a call to the Department of the Navy's Judge Advocate General. "This is Ben Crump," the attorney said, his voice unmistakable. "I'm hearing about a smear campaign against one of your highly decorated commanders. I'd like to offer my services pro bono to ensure the truth comes out. And trust me, when we're done, that police department is going to wish they never hired Mr. Harlan." The team was assembled. The counterattack was ready. They just needed Marcus to come home. The transition was jarring. Several hours earlier, Commander Marcus Ellison had been prone in the red dust of a ridge in Yemen, waiting for a high-value target to move into the kill box. The air had smelled of ozone, sulfur, and unwashed fear. Now he stood on the tarmac of Norfolk Naval Station, the humid Virginia night air sticking to his skin. He had not slept in nearly 3 days. His eyes were rimmed with red, burning with a fatigue that went bone deep. He just wanted to see his daughter. He just wanted a shower. He just wanted silence. Instead, he found a war council waiting for him by a black government Suburban. Vice Admiral Gideon Hayes did not offer a salute. He offered a grim nod and a thick manila folder. Standing next to the admiral was a man Marcus recognized instantly from the news, Benjamin Crump. The attorney's presence shifted the gravity of the situation from a misunderstanding to a national event. "Commander," Crump said, his voice carrying the smooth, resonant timbre of a man who spoke truth to power for a living. "I apologize for the ambush, but the man who attacked you, Officer Harlan, has been busy while you were serving your country. He's not just trying to save his job. He's trying to erase your life." Marcus took the folder. He flipped through it under the harsh glare of the halogen runway lights. It was a dossier of lies, blog posts, leaked police reports from a minor bar scuffle many years ago, anonymous quotes from sources claiming Marcus had a history of aggression. "He's calling it the Thorn Threat," Hayes said, his jaw tight. "He's painting you as a ticking time bomb, a PTSD-riddled killer who snapped in a public park. The town council is holding an emergency hearing tonight. Harlan is going to demand a public apology from the Navy and your immediate discharge." Marcus closed the folder. The exhaustion vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. It was the same feeling he got before breaching a door. "He attacked my reputation," Marcus said quietly. "He attacked your daughter, Marcus," Hayes corrected him softly. "Kids at school are parroting this garbage. Lila asked her aunt if you were going to jail." That was it. The switch flipped. The soldier was gone. The father was activated, and the father was furious. "What's the play?" Marcus asked. Crump smiled, a predatory expression that promised violence of a legal nature. "We let him think he's won. We let him walk into that room, say his piece, and dig his grave. And then we bury him." The community gymnasium was suffocating. It was packed beyond capacity, a sea of angry faces, flashing cameras, and local reporters hungry for blood. The air conditioner was broken, making the room hot, sticky, and agitated. At the front of the room, seated at a long table draped in a cheap plastic tablecloth, sat Derek Harlan. He looked the part of the martyr perfectly. He wore a suit that was slightly ill-fitting, giving him a humble, working-class appearance. Next to him was his union representative and his personal attorney, Leonard Gilthorpe, a man known in legal circles as the Eel for his ability to slither out of tight spots. Harlan was beaming internally. He had checked the guest list. No Navy brass, no Marcus Ellison. They were no-shows. He had scared them off. "The silence from the Navy is deafening," Gilthorpe announced into the microphone, his voice dripping with false sorrow. "We are here to clear a good man's name. Officer Harlan acted in self-defense against a highly trained, mentally unstable combatant. The fact that Commander Ellison isn't even here to defend himself speaks volumes. It is an admission of guilt." The crowd murmured in agreement. Harlan leaned into the mic, making sure to look sad. "I didn't want to use force," Harlan lied, his voice wavering just enough to sound convincing. But when I looked into his eyes, there was nothing there, just rage. I was terrified. I thought I was never going to see my family again. From the back of the room, a heavy set of double doors slammed open. The sound was like a gunshot. The murmuring died instantly. Marcus Ellison walked in. He was not wearing the hoodie. He was not wearing a suit. He was wearing his full-dress blues. The uniform was immaculate. The gold stripes on his sleeves caught the light. The ribbons on his chest told a story of sacrifice that most people in the room could not comprehend. Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, the Legion of Merit. He did not walk. He glided. His head was high. His eyes locked forward. He looked like a titan walking among mortals. Flanking him were Admiral Hayes, looking like the wrath of God, and Ben Crump carrying a briefcase that looked heavy with doom. Harlan's confident smile faltered. He whispered to Gilthorpe, "You said they weren't coming." "Sit down," Gilthorpe hissed. "Let me handle this." Marcus stopped in the center of the aisle, 10 feet from Harlan's table. The silence in the gym was absolute. You could hear the hum of the vending machine in the hallway. "Mr. Mayor," Ben Crump boomed, stepping to a podium that had been set up for public comment. "I am Benjamin Crump, retained counsel for Commander Ellison. We apologize for the delay. The commander was busy dismantling a terrorist cell in the Middle East, while Officer Harlan was busy dismantling the truth here in Oakbridge." "Objection," Gilthorpe shouted, jumping up. "This is a town hall, not a courtroom." "We are not here for grandstanding," Crump countered, his voice overriding the lawyer's. "We are here for the truth. Officer Harlan claims the cameras malfunctioned. He claims my client was the aggressor. He claims he was terrified." Crump signaled to a technician at the back of the room. The Navy, however, has excellent resources. Officer Harlan deleted the footage from his body camera, but he forgot that the bank across the street upgraded to 4K surveillance last month. And he certainly forgot that the Naval Criminal Investigative Service has a cyber warfare division capable of recovering deleted data from the cloud server of the dashcam vendor. Harlan's face went the color of old ash. "Play the tape," Crump ordered. A massive projection screen descended behind the council members. The video began. It was not grainy. It was high definition. The entire room watched as Marcus sat peacefully on the bench. They saw Harlan approach aggressively. They saw the finger pointing. They saw the sneer. Then came the audio. It was not the muffled sound from the viral clip. It had been enhanced, scrubbed of wind noise. "Are you threatening me, boy?" Harlan's voice echoed through the gymnasium, clear as a bell. The crowd gasped. The word hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. The video continued. It showed Harlan unholstering his taser on a man sitting down. It showed the sloppy, violent swing of the baton. It showed Marcus's masterful, non-violent restraint. "He's not attacking you," someone in the crowd shouted. "He's holding you up." "But the video did not stop there," Crump said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Now let's look at what happened after Officer Harlan thought the cameras were off. This is from the buffer memory of his own dashcam." He cleared his throat. He turned it off, but these units record the 30 seconds prior to shutdown. The screen showed Harlan sitting in his patrol car hyperventilating, wiping sweat from his forehead. He pulled out his phone. "Gary, it's Vance." Harlan's recorded voice filled the room. "I need a favor. I need you to pull a file on a guy named Marcus Ellison. I'm going to ruin this guy. I don't care if I have to lie. I'll say he was crazy. These black military guys always have issues. We'll paint him as a thug." Pandemonium. It was not just a murmur anymore. It was an explosion. People were standing up, shouting, pointing fingers. The betrayal was visceral. They had defended this man, and he had played them for fools. Harlan sat frozen. He could not breathe. His chest felt like it was being crushed by a hydraulic press. He looked at Gilthorpe for help, but Gilthorpe was already packing his briefcase, creating physical distance between himself and his client. Marcus walked up to the microphone. He did not need to shout. The room quieted down out of pure respect. He looked directly at Harlan. He did not look angry. He looked disappointed. "My daughter cried herself to sleep 3 nights in a row," Marcus said, his deep voice rumbling through the floorboards. "She asked me why the policemen hated us. She asked me if I was broken. You didn't just fail your oath, Harlan. You attacked a child's peace of mind to cover up your own insecurity." Marcus leaned in closer. "I have fought men who would cut your head off on live television. I have hunted monsters in the dark. You're not a monster, Harlan. You're just a bully with a badge. And bullies always fold when the lights come on." Chief Reginald Thornton, the chief of police, stood up slowly from the council table. He looked sick. He looked furious. He walked around the table, ignoring the mayor, ignoring the protocol. "Derek Harlan," Chief Thornton said, his voice trembling with rage. "You are relieved of duty. You are fired effective immediately. And don't you dare look at me." "Chief, please," Harlan whimpered, tears streaming down his face. "It was a mistake. I was stressed." "And," Ben Crump interrupted, holding up a thick legal document, "you are being served. This is a civil lawsuit for $50 million. We are suing you for defamation, malicious prosecution, and civil rights violations. We will take your pension. We will take your house. We will take your truck. You will work for the rest of your life to pay Commander Ellison, and you will never catch up." Harlan put his head in his hands. It was over. He was ruined. But the universe was not done with him yet. From the back of the room, 2 men in navy blue windbreakers walked down the center aisle. They moved with a different kind of authority than the local cops. On the back of their jackets, in bold yellow letters, were the letters FBI. They walked straight to the table. "Derek Harlan?" the lead agent asked. Harlan looked up, his eyes bloodshot and confused. "What? I'm being sued. I know." "This is not about the lawsuit," the agent said. He pulled a pair of handcuffs from his belt. "We've been monitoring your bank accounts as part of the civil rights inquiry initiated by Mr. Crump. We found some interesting recurring deposits from known local narcotics distributors." The room went dead silent again. "Taking protection money is a federal crime, Vance," the agent said, spinning Harlan around and slamming him onto the table. "That's a RICO predicate. That's racketeering." The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound in the world. "Derek Harlan, you are under arrest for federal racketeering, corruption, and deprivation of rights under color of law." As they hauled him up, Harlan's legs gave out. He had to be dragged, weeping and wailing past the very people he had tried to manipulate. He passed Marcus Ellison, who stood like a statue, watching him with impassive eyes. Harlan looked at Marcus, begging with his eyes for some kind of mercy. Marcus simply turned his back. Admiral Hayes leaned in toward Marcus as the doors swung shut behind the disgraced officer. "That went well. A bit theatrical for my taste, but effective." "He needed to be made an example of, sir," Marcus replied, adjusting his cuffs. "He's going away for a long time," Crump added, closing his briefcase with a satisfying snap. "Federal prison isn't kind to dirty cops." Marcus looked at the empty doorway. The anger was gone. All that was left was the fatigue and the need to go home. "I don't care where he goes," Marcus said, "as long as he stays away from my town and my daughter." He turned to the Admiral. "Sir, permission to be dismissed. I have an ice cream date that is long overdue." Hayes smiled, a rare expression for the old warhorse. "Permission granted, Commander. Go be a dad." The wheels of justice are often criticized for turning slowly, but when they finally caught traction on Derek Harlan, they did not just roll over him, they ground him into dust. Several months after the chaotic town hall meeting, the federal courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia was silent. There were no protesters outside today, no news vans. The sensationalism had faded, leaving only the cold, hard reality of the law. Derek Harlan stood before the bench. He looked like a ghost of the man who had terrorized the town square. He had lost significant weight. His buzz cut had grown out into patchy graying hair. The cheap suit he wore hung off his frame like a shroud. He stood alone. His wife had filed for divorce days after his arrest, taking the kids and moving out of state. His friends on the force had testified against him to save their own pensions. "Mr. Harlan," the federal district judge said, peering over her glasses. She was a stern woman who had seen enough corruption to last a lifetime. You were entrusted with a badge, a symbol of safety. Instead, you used it as a license to hunt. You targeted a decorated war hero because of his skin color, and when he did not break, you tried to destroy his life with lies and criminal conspiracies. Harlan tried to speak, to offer some final plea for mercy, but his voice cracked. Your Honor, I just wanted to keep the town safe. No, the judge cut him off sharply. You wanted to feel powerful, and in your pursuit of that power, you engaged in racketeering, extortion, and the deprivation of civil rights. You are a disgrace to every officer who wears the uniform with honor. The gavel came down with a sound like a gunshot. I sentence you to a lengthy term in federal prison. You will serve the majority of that time before being eligible for any form of supervised release. Remand to custody immediately. Harlan's knees buckled as the U.S. Marshals moved in to shackle him. He looked back at the gallery. He was looking for someone to save him, but the pews were empty. He was dragged out the side door, sobbing into a life of concrete walls and numbered jumpsuits. The bully was finally, irrevocably broken. 2 weeks later, the atmosphere in the town was unrecognizable. It was a crisp, perfect Saturday in spring. The dogwoods were in bloom, dropping white petals like snow across the manicured lawns. Commander Marcus Ellison stood on the marble steps of the town conservatory of music. He was not wearing a uniform today. He wore a simple button-down shirt and slacks, looking less like a warrior and more like what he had always wanted to be, a father. Next to him stood Benjamin Crump, holding a giant ceremonial check. The amount written on it was staggering, $12 million. It was the entirety of the settlement Marcus had won from the city and the police department's insurance carrier. A hush fell over the crowd. The residents of the town, the wealthy elite, the working families, the people who had been suspicious of Marcus, and the people who had supported him were all watching. When this started, Marcus said into the microphone, his voice calm and steady, I was told I did not belong here. I was told that this square, this neighborhood, and this conservatory were reserved for a certain kind of person. He looked down at Lila, who was clutching her violin case, beaming with pride. Money is a tool, Marcus continued. It can be used to build walls, or it can be used to build bridges. I don't want this money. It was paid for by the taxpayers because the system failed, so I am giving it back to ensure the system never fails a child again. He gestured to the banner being unfurled above the conservatory doors. The Ellison Foundation for the Arts and Leadership. This endowment, Marcus announced, will cover full tuition, instruments, and travel costs for 50 students every year. Students from underserved neighborhoods, students who have the talent, but not the zip code. They will learn here, they will play here, and they will remind us that excellence comes in every color. The applause that followed was not polite. It was thunderous. It was a release of tension that the town had been holding for many months. Chief Reginald Thornton, who had managed to keep his job by the skin of his teeth, stood at the back of the crowd. He was not clapping. He was taking notes. Under the terms of the settlement, the police department had been forced to implement the Ellison Protocol, a brutal mandatory retraining program run by retired Special Forces operators. It emphasized de-escalation, mental fortitude, and absolute accountability. The bad apples had not just been fired, they had been purged. The officers who remained were the ones who actually wanted to protect and serve. Thornton caught Marcus's eye across the crowd and nodded. It was a nod of respect and a promise. We are trying. Marcus returned a single curt nod. Keep trying. After the cameras packed up and the crowd dispersed to the reception, Marcus and Lila slipped away. They walked down the familiar sidewalk toward the town square. They stopped at the wrought iron bench, the same bench where Harlan had first approached him, the same bench where Marcus had been told to get on the ground. It looked different now. Someone had tied a yellow ribbon to the armrest. Lila sat down, placing her violin case on her lap. She looked older than she had several months earlier. Drama forces kids to grow up fast. Dad, she asked softly, do you hate him, Mr. Harlan? Marcus sat next to her. He stretched his long legs out, crossing his ankles. He looked at the water fountain bubbling in the center of the square. He thought about the rage he had felt in that moment, the primal urge to hurt the man who threatened him. He thought about the months of stress, the smear campaign, the nights he stayed up watching the security feed of his own house. But then he looked at the conservatory. He saw a group of kids, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, running out of the doors, laughing, carrying instruments that Marcus's donation had paid for. "No," Marcus said, and he was surprised to find he meant it. "I don't hate him, Lila. Hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's heavy, and I don't want to carry anything heavy anymore." He put his arm around her shoulders and squeezed. "He lost everything because of who he was. We gained everything because of who we are. That's enough." Lila leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad we stayed. I like my violin teacher." "I'm glad we stayed too," Marcus smiled. He checked his watch, the same battered G-Shock. "But I think we are forgetting something very important, a mission objective that has been outstanding for several months." Lila looked up, grinning. "The ice cream." "The ice cream," Marcus confirmed, standing up and offering her his hand. "And not just any ice cream. I hear the shop around the corner has a triple chocolate fudge that is technically classified as a tactical asset." They walked away from the bench hand in hand, leaving the past where it belonged, behind them. The sun was setting over the town, casting long golden shadows across a town that was a little bit kinder, a little bit fairer, and a hell of a lot safer. All because one man refused to stand up when he was told to know his place. And that is the incredible true-life saga of Commander Marcus Ellison. It is a story that reminds us that the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest, and that true power lies in composure, integrity, and the absolute refusal to be bullied. Officer Harlan thought his badge made him a king, but he forgot that a badge is heavy. It is a burden of trust, and if you abuse it, it will crush you. A lengthy prison sentence is a long time to think about a mistake, but for the kids now attending that conservatory on a full scholarship, Marcus's legacy will last a lifetime. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think the sentence was enough for Harlan? And what did you think about Marcus donating the entire $12 million? That is a level of boss move I cannot even comprehend. If this story got your blood pumping and your justice meter satisfied, please destroy that like button. It really helps the algorithm share these stories with more people. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you are the first to hear our next story of drama, karma, and justice served. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stand your ground, and I'll catch you in the next one.